I'm gonna tell you how they do the dominance. It's all based on fear. So I'm gonna close this. May I close this door temporarily?
Yeah, yeah.
I have an experiment. Just outside this door, there are individuals that will stab you. They will take all your belongings. Who's got a nice car? They will take your car and steal it. All your money in your pocket, they'll cut your hair off. They'll rape you. They'll pillage and plunder you. Now just think about it behind that door. Literally. Now just really imagine that someone is, or people are behind that door. Who's willing to open that door? Why?
I just feel like living in fear too much is just like too stressful, and like I think like you should just live your life and just go through it, even if that things could happen.
Who wouldn't want to open the door? Why? Anybody?
Scary.
It's scary? Who else? Scary?
As a girl, there's a lot of things that can happen to you.
Anybody else?
As a black girl.
Anybody else? Carla, you got anything? Why would
They covered it.
they covered all that? So so there's when you walk up to it, you're gonna be hesitant to open it, period. If you decide to open it. But that fear is one of the greatest tools I learned inside to control someone. I saw inmates break other inmates down with fear by being afraid of being attacked and harmed. So they would be willing to give up all their possessions and eventually their sexuality. They would be raped. And then they would stay in that lane because they felt like that's where they felt safety at. Like, you won't touch your hand you won't put your hand to an electric socket because you have fear. But if you do, you may die. Even though that may not be the case. Sometimes you will be afraid to touch certain batteries on your car because you feel like you may die. But it's only 12 volts, believe it or not. 12 volts ain't gonna kill you. But there's a fear behind that because people just don't know. People fear, things that they don't understand. So in order to overcome fear, you have to get knowledge. You have to be empowered. You have to seek to understand, like, what's going on. Because it's never a good policy or a practice or a habit to just blanket label groups of people. Because you don't know their background, you don't know their history, you don't know anything about them. Anytime someone does that, automatically train your mind to have a red flag. Like, they're trying to make me afraid of these people? And that may be the case. Also remember this, they may be right. You should be afraid of individuals. There are people that are in prison that need to be there. They need an environment like that because they are not in control of themselves, and they will harm you and they will take from you and not feel bad about it. And they will keep taking because that's all they know until they get jarred out of it and be like, oh, I don't want to do that. That's not good. But that's how you dominate, because most people in society are not running around with clubs and knives and guns and all of those things that you can dominate, or just not physically strong. But you have numbers and you have a vote and you have a conscience and you pay taxes. So if I have this system and I need whatever from you to help dominate what I got in place, I got to sell this image to you so you can provide all your votes and your funding and your taxes and not feel bad about it because I'm keeping these people in prison. And I'm going to control the information that you find out about them so you won't question and second guess what I'm doing, and I can have a wide open gate to do whatever I want. That's the strategy. That is the strategy. Fear. Fear is a great tool, a great method of control.
Fear combined with dehumanizing. It's
Yeah.
a red flag. It's a dehumanizing sensor, right? Transparency and open-mindedness to someone's humanity. I'm listening. Yeah, let's keep going down that way. Fear and control.
Yeah.
Label people so you can write them off and move on to control.
Yeah.
And that's what we unfortunately experience with institutions a lot. And why the trust isn't there, because we see the damage of that. So that's been helpful for me as I've gotten to know Jonathan. My whole journey of learning how to humanize people because of knowledge, of knowing.
Yeah.
Like, this is a blessing, right? Like, we get to know
Yeah.
each other in a way we
Yeah.
haven't before. Where y'all are blessing us, and we get to, like, this is,
Yeah.
I don't just sit here and like, Oglethorpe students, let me just, what have I heard about them? Or I can actually have conversations with a handful and not be as judgmental, right? We want to have actual experiences to help us form judgments. We need to form judgments, but make it based off of knowledge, not labels and potential things that we don't know about. So
Yeah.
that's huge.
Okay, questions. Who got questions? Who's going first? Bam, there you go.
It's actually kind of late, so literally what you guys were just saying. So I was wondering, so I know on Wednesday you were saying that you studied law while you were incarcerated.
Yes.
I was wondering, like, what access is there actually available to the law, and like when you're trying to study like legal education while you're incarcerated, like, and how is it limited?
It's limited in time, and in order to be able to study law effectively, you have to know how to manage the clock. On any given day, unless you work there, you're only going to get 2 hours a day, and you have to choose between recreation and going to the library, and depending on what house you're in. So I first got my job in the law library. I'd be there all day. From 8 o'clock in the morning till 8 o'clock at night, I'm in the law library. I'm like, I work out in my cell. I need this knowledge. And I did that. But prior to that, I used to illegally skate to the library. When instead of going to my rec, I would go to the gym, and then I would go to the library, and then on other people's rec, I would leave and go to the library. But the COs that were in my housing unit, they said, "You ain't going to rec?" I'm like, "No, I just want to go to the library. I want to learn." They said, "Go ahead, man. You ain't bothering nobody." And they would call, and like clockwork, I'd be in the library. And so that was an extra grace that I got. So I learned how to read cases, how to pull cases, but I couldn't take the books with me because other people need them and they want you to keep them there. So I developed a case pulling system that I would go and get the annotations of statutes, and I would look at all the cases that related to something that I was talking about, whether it was pro or anti on the issue that I would want, but it would basically help paint the color around the issue. And I would pull those cases, copy them while I'm there, and then take it back to my cell, and I would use my cell time to study them when I did not work in the law library and I couldn't get all that time. I was teaching other prisoners, like, this is what you do. 2 hours is not enough time. You need to go and pull these cases and take them back to your cell. And I know it's expensive because we were paying like 10 cents a copy. Like, I got a deal with a guy that I would pay 5 cents a copy, and he would give me extra copies, as many copies as I wanted. I imagine if I kept it all together, all the stuff that I copied and brought back to my cell, it would fill this room easy and probably overflow it from top to bottom, wall to wall.
How many years you think you were going to the library once you had access?
The whole time. I'd never missed the library time unless I was in the hole. And even then, when I was in the hole, I would write to the library and ask for cases that I could study. And they would bring you 5 a week, which would tremendously slow me down, but I would still get access to those cases, and I would try to be more specific on what I wanted that was closer to the issue, versus just going down the rabbit hole to see all the different possibilities of how the issue would turn out based on XYZ set of facts. Does that make sense? Mm-hmm. Yeah.
Earlier at a Monday or Wednesday, when you were talking about trying to find out about if somebody was in prison for whatever, if they claimed that they were in prison for, let's say, murder, but they were in for some kind of sexual aggravation or something, and then phone calls or trying to get that information, that would be limited. But how is it that certain places will allow inmates to access information like law cases?
Because it's not by choice. They have to do it by law. They have to, and I think this is part of your question too. They have to provide inmates with reasonable access to legal resources in the event that they have to represent themselves or they have issues within the institution like prison conditions that they have to file grievances and complaints and civil lawsuits. So they have to provide you access to it. Now, it's not the top of the line and you don't have a full exhaustive list of things, but if you know what you're doing and you know what are the, you know, what's essential, like you can use it. They went from a book system to LexisNexis, which was a lot faster because like I could type like 40 words per minute. I learned how to type and I knew what was going on. I knew how to navigate computers because I learned how to work on them at the old prison before I went to the new prison. The old prison was called the Missouri State Penitentiary and the new prison was called the Jefferson City Correctional Center. Well, I studied civil law, I studied immigration law, I studied, man, you name it. I found like studying the facts of cases or just reading them, I learned a little bit about everything in life. It was weird. It was just so even when Bill Gates had the issue with his business, I studied up on that. It was pretty cool. At first, I remember when I first read a case, I was sitting in the library. This guy gave me this book called Brady v. Maryland, and I could barely read and write at the time. And he said, "Look, your freedom's in this book, man. You need to read it." So he set it down in front of me, and I had to stop like every 2 or 3 words because I couldn't understand what was going on. And before then, I just got mentally tired, and I start drooling, and it's all down my shirt, all on the book, it's just pulled down. And then I woke up. I was like, "Oh no, I can't close it because the pages are gonna stick." I was like, I had to leave it open, and I just felt so defeated and so broken. But man, God must have breathed some wind into my sails because I had a plan. I said, you know what? I need to study each word that I don't understand, line by line, word by word. So I went up to the counter, and I asked the law clerk. I say, man, I said, I need the thesaurus, I need the dictionary, and then there was this book called the Black's Law Dictionary. And I leaned in, because he was black too. I said, hey man, the Black's Law Dictionary, that's for black people? He says, no. That's a law book. He said, just to be clear. I said, oh, well, let me get that one too. And then everywhere I would took them back to my desk where I was studying. You had to be quiet in there. Because that's a no-no. I seen people get stabbed in the library because they was being too loud. That felt like you playing with my freedom. You up here making all this noise, laughing and carrying on. It went down in the library. And I would read word by word. I would look at the definition and I would increase my understanding and my learning. And before you know it, 6 months later, I understood complex conversations of law. Yeah. Any other questions? Anybody got questions? What you got?
So I'm from Mississippi. Both my parents from Mississippi. And in the black community, there are like a lot of things that go unspoken. Like people say don't have sex, don't smoke. They don't say why. So I wanted to know what you thought of like the importance about speaking on touchy topics in the black community and like much needed conversation, and how do we attack that in the black community?
Like what would you give me an example of a touchy topic, because everything is different.
Like taboo kind of stuff, or just
Well, I guess
sensitive?
more of like less of touchy and more of important.
Okay,
Like with like teen pregnancy and smoking, drinking, like things that happen in the community today.
Oh, so I would say this. There's no teacher like experience, and there's also something to be said about visual learning. Man, I feel like in the black community, like some people that have made those mistakes, it is my hope that they would be willing to allow people to come see them and talk to them and ask questions. Like we go to field trips to go see Disney World or other little places like the zoo, but we don't do it in our community. Like we need to be able to teach people in our community and take kids like, hey, look, Let's go talk to this homeless person. Like, why are they homeless? What's going on? Let's go talk to this 13-year-old girl who's struggling right now because she can't go to school, she can't finish all this. Ask her what's life like. Or let's go talk to this 30-year-old who had kids when they was 12 and 13. Let's talk to them. How is life for them? And let's look at their surroundings and their environment. There's no teacher like immersing people in those type of environments so they can really feel and understand it. And they have to talk to people that they may not know, but they need to go out and talk. They need to go talk to the drug addicts. You know, let them see it, but do it in a way where it's a controlled environment. Because if they experience it, I think on their own, they're not going to get it. But if someone's there to help them facilitate breaking down and processing the experience, like, that's a great learning tool, and it needs to be recorded if possible. Those are some ways to explain it, because like most kids on it, they hear what's on a rap song in the black community and they think that's what's up. Like, oh, I don't care about that. I don't care about this rap song. This is what it is. I'm gonna get a bag. I want to try this. Everybody want to be a rap star. Everybody want to be a basketball player. Everybody want to be a model. And they want money quick, but they don't understand like the whole process and what that is. And are you sure that's what you really want? And then people that are in those spaces have to be willing to like share that. So I think if someone goes and meets with these people first, these different interest groups, and like, hey, I'd love to bring some people from my community to come see you and talk to you, not to say that you're less than valuable, but you have an opportunity to teach people about your mistakes and things that you wish you would have did different. And you will be an asset to your community if you do that. This is my, just thinking off the top of my head. Anybody else?
Do you remember when we were, oh, sorry.
Well, I was just gonna mention one thing, the having hard conversations in the black community, because we come from so much trauma.
Yeah.
It is hard to open up that, because it takes emotional energy that a lot of us don't have.
Yeah.
To help these babies understand the horrors of this world.
Yeah.
And so instead of going through all of the steps that it takes as humans to get to these hard places, we just say, just don't do this, baby. Just don't do this. And so that only lasts so long, because we're full humans and we need to actually be in line with what we're doing instead of just following orders, right? But I think there's so much going on, and there's so much that we come from, that a lot of the times the adults in our community, we just don't have the energy or maybe even the understanding of why things are. And so hopefully that can lead us to a little more compassion, a little more patience. Yeah. And when we do learn something like Jonathan is saying, try to create safe places for us to have these conversations. But don't try to bite everything off at once. But a lot of times we make these choices because we're trying to fill these relational connections, and that's the only thing that's in front of us is boom, boom, boom. And also try to be a model and find models of people who are making healthier relational choices to get these needs met. Because a lot of times we're lonely, and so we look to drugs, we look to unhealthy relationships, and food, stuff on TV, on the internet, right? Like, because we're trying to fill these relational holes because our communities are broken. We don't have a relationship with the land, we don't have a relationship with each other, like, and so any way you can find something healthy, like, celebrate that. I think the why questions is always connected to relationship. Relationship with God, relationship with each other, relationship to creation. And we're just always trying to find ways to restore those connections. Yeah. And so celebrate that when you can find it. Like, this is about, what we're talking about now is about restoring relationship with each other. And when we treat each other like tools, or if we treat each other like human beings, that's the ultimate discernment as we navigate life. Is this making me relate to this person more human or less? Yeah. And affirming people's needs. Yeah. Like, we have relational needs. Yeah. But let's affirm it, like reaching it in healthier ways and exposing, like, you have a legit need, but you're trying to get it in a legitimate way that's going to lead to more emptiness, like X, Y, or Z. So I think affirming those needs of humans is the first step
Yeah.
in answering those whys. And then you have to look around or be the healthier option and celebrate the mess out of that. So I think John was talking about like recording, documenting, like this is a real human with real needs and why is this broken? Let's try to help.
Yeah.
But the burden is heavy.
Yeah.
So don't try to bite it all off, and maybe we'll have more compassion for those who come before it because it's just so heavy.
Yeah. So the record, just to be clear, the recording aspect of it is a way to multiply your efforts, because you may catch something that's very impactful on video, and like you can take that and show that to other people, other schools, and other places, and other communities. Here's another thought I wanted to point out as a way to invite people, like basically call it a community inclusion project. And I say this based off of what I have observed in the communities. It's like I'm like I say, I'm doing land clearing and land management right now. I'm in the middle of the trap. Ain't no doubt about it. But there's churches in different communities that invite people that are homeless and have issues and drug habits and all that. They invite them in and they give them free food. So you could potentially set something up where, and you may have more details, but try to do a little food drive and then take it to them, cook them a hot meal, and let's all sit down and eat together in a church and in a safe space like that. And let's open up, have a list of questions. You don't want to run them raggedy because they may not have the mental capacity to just drain them dry, but just maybe like anywhere from 5 to 10 questions that just ask people. And then, hey man, tell me about your life. And so that requires you or whoever else to get involved and talk to someone who don't look like you, may not smell like you. You know, they going through it. And you got to look them in their eye and like let them know by your body language, by your words, like, hey, you matter. Like you may feel like your life has brought you to a place where you don't matter and you're a piece of trash, but you're not. Like your knowledge and your experience is important, and it is. It is very important to learn from our mistakes. Like when you share someone the lessons that you learned from your mistakes, there can be no greater lesson. Because it's saying, hey, don't go down that path. Here's why. I went down there and there's a monster around that corner, or there's a hole in the ground that goes I don't know where, and I almost fell in it. Or I did fall in it. If you go down there, that's what you got coming. And this is how it's going to impact your life for the rest of your life. That's so important. Yeah. Anybody else got a question?
I was gonna say, for all of that, those seem like, well, it's not up there anymore, but you know how we're talking about this daunting, what's the solution, how do you start, or Campbell, you're saying like, you know, if there's a way to chip at it, that there are lots of different ways, and those seem to me suggestions of ways, and not everybody's gonna be able to do, you know, people will choose different ones. Do you remember, you know, we studied Toni Morrison, why she was important is because she wrote books for her community and spoke of things that people were mad about her speaking about them, because if she was bringing up, let's say in the Bluest Eye, rape that's inside of the black community, why are you going to air that? We're living in a world, we, the black community, meaning these are her critics,
Yeah.
saying that we, the black community, we're trying to stand up and we're trying to show, we're fighting against a current of the stereotypes that we don't matter, we're this, we're that, we're animals, we're savages and everything. Why are you gonna air this? Don't do that. But she said, we need healing. We need, so
Yeah.
there's stuff you can do inside, there's stuff that you can, this was her path, this was the way that she contributed, this was the way, and it helped people see themselves in it and talk about things that were very painful. Just when you were bringing it up, like I grew up in a household which was don't do this kind of household, and I was a kid that wanted to know why. Hence I'm a professor, right? But why? Don't just tell me what to do. Like why?
Tell me why. Yeah.
And it didn't work. I would get myself in trouble because that doesn't work for me. But when I think about my mother's situation, she was raising kids on her own. Husband had left, right? That kind of thing. She didn't have time to explain why. She was just like, just don't,
Yeah.
right? So that's happening. So maybe that's where you can contribute. Like you can help create a space for you can be answering the whys for some young girls down the road or
Yeah.
whatever, right?
Yeah. That's
But
good.
it just occurred in listening to the answers to the question that we do have little ways of chipping.
Yeah.
Like all of a sudden I feel hopeful, more hopeful than, oh, daunting. Like it can be just too daunting when we are looking at the big structure.
Yeah.
That was the
Yeah.
best advice given to me when I started doing this work of, like, pick a lane.
Yeah.
Can get
There's
in it.
1,000 lanes,
Mm-hmm.
and, you know, we can't do it all. But there are so many little things that we can do that can count as wins. That's
Yeah.
coming from my basketball experience and
Yeah.
experiencing so
Yeah.
many great teams and championship cultures.
Yeah.
One of the consistent aspects of the championship culture is celebration.
Yeah.
Like, we celebrated the mess out of each other. We work
Yeah.
so hard every day.
Yeah.
You better believe we're gonna celebrate. Like, somebody, you know, keep missing, they struggle with their left hand, right, their weak hand, missing, and then you just start to see them turn a corner and they do their reps and they're, like, working hard. Like, you
Yeah.
better believe when that person makes their left hand layup in the game, like, we're going crazy on the bench
Yeah.
or chest bumping them or making them feel, right? Like, the celebration. So when you see a classmate sharing something vulnerable or doing something or having a good idea, like, body language, like, yes, keep going, like,
Yeah.
keep going, sis, keep going, bro.
Yeah.
Like,
Yeah.
celebration is what has gotten the black community through. Any marginalized community,
Yeah.
celebration
Yeah.
of the good news and the good things going on. Because we have enough
Yeah.
bad news, right? I mean, ad nauseum, the
Yeah.
bad news. But that's actually not the truest story going on.
No,
There's
it's
so
not.
many good things going on.
Yeah.
But it's up to us to find them and to be them and to share them.
Yeah.
And so that keeps us going because it is
Yeah.
such a discouraging history and picture.
Yeah.
But we gotta make sure we're talking about the full picture.
The whole
of
picture.
people.
Yeah.
He's sitting here today, right? That's the more real than what happened to him. Like,
Yeah.
that's the, not more real, but more important is all these stories you hear about him studying in the law library. And, like, for as much trauma and horrible things that have happened, people have stepped in, like my great uncle, or like different COs, or
Yeah.
different lawyers, or different nonprofits have stepped in. The judge, right, that could have just said dismissed. He chose to care and overturned Jonathan's conviction in a way where it would stick.
He denied 20 before he even got to my case. Just literally within 5 minutes, 20 cases were denied.
Denied. But he chose to do the right thing. So there are people, there are organizations, there
Yeah.
are elders
Yeah.
who have gone before, organizations. You don't have to start your own nonprofit,
Nope.
right?
You don't have to
There are
reinvent the
nonprofit-
wheel.
Don't reinvent the wheel. There are people out there doing the work. Learn, intern, partner, and use the momentum of the community, right? We live in a hyper-individualized, culture.
Yeah.
It's not going to get you, you're going to burn out. We have to do it together.
Yeah.
So these little things, but it starts with first having eyes to see the red flags of humanizing, dehumanizing in order to know
Yeah.
who to partner with and how to make decisions about where you're taking your energy and your effort. And it's not always a clear thing, right? Like, no team or organization is perfect, but you start doing that work yourself, and then you start investing in those classes or organizations or sources of information that do the humanizing work.
Yeah.
Something with One With Justice, which is our nonprofit, that talks about redefining what a win is in our justice system. So instead of just getting convictions
Yeah.
and looking like we're having justice and throwing people away,
Yeah.
what are we doing to actually look at cases case by case, specifically prosecutors,
Yeah.
to decide what justice is going to look like
Uh-huh.
in each of these scenarios, which is a really, really hard thing to do. But our nonprofit is trying to celebrate those progressive prosecutors and people that are trying to look at people as human beings and creating other diversion programs. And there's different options other than just sentencing someone as long as they can and then forgetting about them, right? So voting for prosecutors who have those mindsets, or are the prosecutors that we're letting continue to win or voting for talking about just a blanket tough on crime, right? These little code words that basically hide like we're going to keep the status quo going. Or are they humanizing people in their language?
Yeah.
Because we vote for people. Our political system is not the best, in my opinion, as far as winners and losers. I feel like we should have more of a compromising, more collective government. But until that happens, we have to participate in our voting. And we can also bring a collective energy in how we run our communities and look at the local level. So just continue to look for those people. Look for those leaders that are a generation above you, or 2 or 3 or 4, that have that humanizing language and track record, and learn and partner and serve, and then get some sleep. And then go get up and do it again, right? Like take care of ourselves.
Yeah.
That's how we resist. We got to take care of ourselves too.
When you were deciding your lane, since we're talking about young people here,
Yeah.
there's so many lanes. So when you were deciding, or okay, you have to you can't do everything. At what point did you decide it was we're gonna focus on prosecutorial sort of work, or like that was the lane, or that was the
Yeah. Because Jonathan can run in all the lanes, because you have so much experience in intelligence, but and you have a lot of energy. This man, like things he's just casually mentioning, like copying things and taking them back to his cell in 8 hours a day. I'm like, the work, like, and persistence, like, you're different. So you don't have to make Jonathan your standard. But
Well, thank you.
it's truly. But I needed help from my elders. I needed help from people who had gone before to help me see what the lane possibilities were. And then I also had to look at what I have, my gifts, my influence, my station, and my season of life, right? You're in a season of life right now that's going to look different than maybe the next 4 years, the next 10 years. And so I think about my gifts, my gifts and abilities, kind of where I am in my season of life, and my influence and power, right? Gifts, season, power, and then seeing how those things, and just naturally what your heart beats for, right? Like a lot of y'all are starting to put some language around what you feel like your heart beats for,
Right.
because it has to be genuine, can't be forced. And then start to meet people and talk to people who are doing those things, and as diverse as you can, right? Like I've got to talk to prosecutors in LA. I've met public defenders in the Midwest, right? Like, learn. And your lane will start to, you get out of bed. When you find your lane, it's like, oh, I'm getting out of bed to go do the thing in my lane, right? Like those things that motivate you. And then just try to stay connected with people
Yeah.
in that lane. So like for the prosecutorial reform, the organization that helped me start our nonprofit, they work with influencers like John Legend, who started the school to prison, ending the school to prison pipeline. Like that, like they help people who have a platform get educated and empowered to do the work that they want to do in their community. And so because I have a level of platform, my calls to action for people can be more broad. And so voting for prosecutors who are the main they're really the most powerful actors in a lot of these cases, because they set the charges, they decide like the 16-year-old should be tried here, and so we went after a powerful position that people can actually do something about. So there was an action step, like know your prosecutors and be involved in voting for them at the local level. So that was the lane I ended up focusing on when I first got started, because of the influence and the encouragement of people who had gone before, who knew how to help me with where my position in life was. So, and once I understood, like, oh my gosh, prosecutors are very important, because I had no idea. I was just playing ball, doing my thing, very ignorant to local leaders and our justice system. But you better believe now that I know Jonathan, what gets me out of bed, oh, I'm gonna start learning about my prosecutors, right? So kind of see my steps. And that was what, 10 years ago? Like, who I am now is much different than I was 25, 26 years old. So, and then your lane can change,
Yeah.
right? But try to learn how to be in a lane, though. You know, don't lane bounce, 'cause that's kind of defeats the purpose, right? Like, find a lane, though.
You may not even
And
see
connect. You connected.
yeah, you may not even see progress for years. But again, you have to celebrate for even if you move the needle in a centimeter, like it's better than what it was.
That's right.
You know, and one of the smallest things that you can do is fact check people. Be like, the sky is red. Actually, the sky is blue, and here are multiple sources that prove that. That's the importance of knowledge right there. Just an organic conversation, because sometimes people don't do their homework and they throw out these things and they don't fact check and they don't triple source and look for and get from reliable sources. So like just the ability to research and critically think, like don't lose that. Seek that. Hone those skills. Yeah. Anybody got any other questions?
Amaya, you look like you had something.
Everybody said they had a
Last
question.
Talking about education and one of my previous questions was what was your process for getting to these cases, which you've already answered. But you mentioned earlier, I believe it was Monday, about how there is no education programs within prison. And so I wanted to know if you had a source or somebody you can point to me, because my project is in reform and awareness of what goes on in prisons, on the inside, how we can change it and make it better. And hopefully, you suggested, make a lane for people who do want to get help, who do want to help themselves, who want to get out and do better. I want to work in that.
Can I ask a clarifying question? What do you mean by educational programs?
Well, I wrote down, it's not just college, but GED programs or certificate programs, stuff like that can really help them once they get out of prison.
So they are starting to have that more now. They're starting to push for that because they realize it's a thing. But you was asking, is there something else that you can contact or a resource?
Because you seem very knowledgeable in this kind of thing. You gave me the Rick Ross Congress tape that I can listen to. So if there's anything you can put into that I can use.
Yeah, and then also you can get my email from her. You guys, you can give them my email if they want to. Anybody wants to email me and ask me questions and everything, because I'm working with the Missouri Department of Corrections where I was at. Get this. The same people who pop me like popcorn without butter are now asking me to help them reform their system and change their culture. Like I got the director's direct line on my cell phone right now. Hey man, what are your thoughts about this? Can you get down there and come here and hey, check this out. So that's one of the things I'm helping. And it ain't all the prisons in the United States, but it's one. And and to me, that's a win. So if you got any questions on that, reach out, and I'll shoot you back an email. I may not be quickly, but I'll shoot you back. You'll see us online. What do we have? Winwithjustice.org. That's a resource. You can get stuff off of there. Second Mountain. I'll get you some information if you reach out. If you really want to know, reach out some stuff. But yeah, there are a lot of people out there that are starting to do the work now, believe it or not. So I'm encouraged by that, by all the things that are happening, and people just seeing hey man, what has been working is not working. We have to do something different.
There's not. It still feels like they're all separate sort of things.
But they're all working together.
Right.
It's just like everybody in their own lane, because everybody can't do the same thing. Everybody has to come with different names, different terminologies. Things is just like us, we're all individuals. Each LLC or nonprofit is an individual entity. It may not have blood, it may not breathe, but it's an entity. Everybody has to work together, no matter what walk of life you're from, in order to to tackle such a large task, and we have to do it step by step. Can you eat an apple in one bite, as small as it is? You got it bite by bite. You know what I'm saying? You know, it's just don't get discouraged. You know, don't feel like, man, hey, there's nothing I can do, because that's going to stop you from going forward in the first place. Like you got to at least make one step at a time, and then before you know it, you're gonna look back. Hey, I may not be where I want to be, but I ain't where I was. The needle has moved. You know what I'm saying? Yeah.
One thing I've been learning about, if y'all want to write this down, of just the prison pipeline. I didn't know what that was.
Yeah.
And with our efforts with Win with Justice, we're now focusing on Jonathan's main lane now is with reentry. So
Yeah.
re-entering back into society. So I'd write humanizing as the big bubble, right, at the top.
Super important.
Humanizing, that's
Yeah.
that's the foundation of our life, of our mission as humans, right? We gotta humanize each other.
Yes.
And then we're talking about criminality, right? This
Yeah.
whole idea of
Yeah.
criminalizing, criminal, like we're wrestling through that.
Yeah.
And so the prison pipeline, you've got an entry point to the pipeline. And we talk about schools, sociology, social work.
Bam,
right?
bam. Them two right there.
So we're looking at kids, right? The most vulnerable. By
Yeah.
the time they're in third grade, if they're not on reading level, there's a however many percent chance that they're going to be in prison, right?
Yeah.
That's what Jonathan was talking about. So the entry point to the prison pipeline, what do we do for the guys and girls, men and women who are in prison, right? How do the educational programs, the transparency in prisons, what's happening in the prison? How do we help
Yeah.
restore programs like Second Mountain?
Yeah.
How do we restore and help men and women get the help that they need?
Yeah.
And then the reentry part, getting out of the pipeline so that the recidivism doesn't happen, so they don't come back. And what do we do as a community to receive reentering citizens? Even the term reentering citizen, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
That's humanizing. I'm learning about our language matters
Yeah.
and how we talk about people.
Oh, you're speaking my love language right now.
Come on now.
I mean, I'm in language.
Come on now.
So I already have that's what we're working on Monday.
Yeah.
We're gonna work on that and look at all the different angles.
Yeah.
Yeah. So those are I'm sorry, but the
No, you're good.
exit, like the re-entry point, like that's kind of the bigger picture of the
Yeah.
criminal justice system.
Yeah.
And you have prosecutors on the front end, right, giving the sentences, right? So that's where you find your lanes.
Yeah.
But if you don't understand the bigger picture, it's going to be harder to understand how am I impacting.
Uh-huh.
This organization is specifically on this part or
Yeah.
these two parts, or
Yeah.
and then you can chip away at the prison pipeline.
Yeah.
Because we're trying to destroy the prison pipeline.
Yeah.
So where we don't need it, right? So hopefully that's helpful. Sometimes pictures and images are
Yeah.
easier to get, but
Yeah.
Yeah.
that's been helpful for me.
You have my socials too. What's somewhere where they can go and follow what we're doing?
You can just look up Jonathan Irons. Yeah.
Okay. I don't do none of that stuff. He know how to do all that stuff. I don't know how to do all that. But yeah. Yeah, man. Oh, yeah, I'll leave y'all with this too. One last thing. So in terms of reentry, how many of y'all have seen any type of news feed or information of felons that have gotten out of prison and are living successful lives? Has anybody seen that on the news? How often? It's often now? Where basically they have gotten out and they got a job? Yeah, so that's like one out of all of y'all that have seen that. Like one of the things that we're trying to do is get a hold of these guys and celebrate them by interviewing them. Tell us about your success. How did you get here? What was your struggles like? Because when prisoners inside see, hey man, that guy's just like me, they're going to want to follow that, and that's encouraging. So that's one of the ways that we're going to celebrate and try to uplift and change things.
Be the change you want to see.
That's right.
That's how you see.
Yeah.
You have to be it. So the people that are being it need to be seen.
Yes.
Instead of the bad news cycles that make you think, oh, every criminal is like this.
Yeah.
Right? So what's the name of the source that
Yeah,
you
what
see
is it now?
these stories on? Oh, just on TikTok.
Oh, I have not seen them on. I need to Google
You
that
said a
on
specific,
TikTok.
did you say?
Or no, I said Gypsy Rose. Yeah,
Like the
Gypsy
person.
Rose person.
Yeah.
Okay,
Okay.
I haven't seen it.
That's
Interesting
also
case.
related to like, the crime was big, like it was a big thing when she was
Yeah.
in prison, so like
like when it's not a big thing like that, you don't see
Yeah, I just somebody as simple as
people.
that may have got a meth conviction or theft.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Like, hey man, what are you doing now? Are you
Celebrate.
doing something different? Oh, you got a job? Oh, you're responsible? You going to work every day? Hey, that's right. Go to work every day. Let's go.
Yeah.
That's right. Yeah. Cause we'll celebrate when somebody slam a basketball. What about celebrating when somebody go to work every day? Like they need that. That's something that they need. Yeah.